had that up because we are in the real estate new year. It started yesterday. So that means, right, we have a 90 to 120 day lag time in real estate. So all of the actions you guys are starting to do right now is to build your business for next year, right? So what that means, this is the time to reflect, right? When you're thinking about what you've done this year, okay? As we go through this next hour, here's what I want you guys to get out of it. Number one, I hope I change your mind on how you go into your business planning this year. Okay. So as you create your plan this year, I want you to think differently. I want you to think more high level and more like a CEO. Okay. And I want you to think about what that means for how you're going to attack your plan this year. Okay. We're going to spend some time really assessing where you're at right now and where you need to be to get started for next year. That's another beautiful time of these 3 months right here, right? You get to know the activities you need to do to be ready, start creating the habits right now around the actions you need to be making. And you get to be planning to make sure everything is ready to set and forget when it comes January 2026. Yeah, is that the mindset you guys are in? Ready to do that? Okay, good. And then what I want is for this PowerPoint and this information today to be a really good check sheet for you. Okay, a gut check. I'm anticipating this will be a pretty heavy note-taking call. Okay, so get your notebooks out, get your paper. If you're watching later on Zoom, make sure you've got it ready for you, or on recording, make sure you've got it ready. And here's how I kind of want you to think of it. Okay, make 2 columns on your paper. In one side of the column, as you hear things, I want you to put it in the I'm doing that really well column. That's working. 2 thumbs up, the good column. Or it should be placed in the second column, which is, ooh, I could be better at that one. Okay, so everything you hear today, think about that in your business. Okay, let me see. Okay, I'm gonna, I have everything set up always, you know. And then I go to share it and it's gone. All right, let me get my screen open here and then we will be ready. I don't know why that doesn't just stay up for me. It like took me all the way out of it. All right, present and then share. Okay, so today we are going to talk about what the plan would look like that a CEO would have for their business, right? So those of you who are just starting in the business, that's okay. This is going to be a really great guideline for you to use to make sure you're where you need to be. For those of you who are farther along in the business, it's a really good way to see where are you at, right? And what do you need to do to get better? I lost everything. Okay, so these are the places. Sorry, guys. When I present, it takes over my whole screen and then I can't see you. I can't see anything else. All right, hold on one second. And I have a second screen, so it's supposed to be just going there. Okay, let's do that. Okay, now let me put that up there. Okay, let's enter that into full screen mode. I think I got it. Okay, now let me get out of this one. Where's my mouse? Oh my goodness, you guys. We had all our energy up too, and now I've lost my mouse. Okay, I'm so sorry. I'm about to say just forget it, but they're important. You need them. All right, hold on. You guys can still see me, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good. You can still hear me. I just don't have a mouse to get back. Do you see a mouse moving around on the screen anywhere for you guys?
No.
Okay. And when you don't have a mouse, what do you do? Huh? Ah, where's my IT guy? Ah. All right. Well,
IT
let's
is
just
going to
kind
be
of
the
jump
death of
in.
me.
Right? Oh my God, I know. Okay, well, I'm just not going to worry about it. And something's probably going to come back into scope here soon. Something's probably frozen and then hopefully it'll get back working. Okay, but here's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the mindset of a CEO today. How do they go at the business plan thinking? Okay, think CEO or a top producing agent you know and like that acts or runs their business like a CEO. That will work as well, but we want to stay in that mindset. We're going to talk about why planning matters, right? Why do you need a plan? And of course, what needs to be in your plan, right? What are the elements that need to be in your plan? Look at us go. Yeah, 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 yeah. Okay. All right. So the 7 core elements of your business plan, okay? We're going to talk about the habits you need to create for yourself that this plan is going to help you have accountability for, right? That is the most important part of this next hour is identifying and establishing your accountability around this plan and how you're going to use it to make you better, right? To identify your gaps and then plan your actions you need to be doing. Okay? So we already said it's Happy New Year, right? This is October 1. Everything you start doing now is to build your business for next year and beyond, right? Think about this. Well, I'm going to wait on that one actually. Okay, so why is it so important to have a plan? On the left are some of the things that happens when you don't, right? You can lose money, income. How many of you have lost income by not having a plan? Right? I think about traveling. If you ever try to take a big trip and you do not have a plan, it is absolutely going to cost you time, energy, and money, right? It's the exact same thing in your business. You can't go out it without a plan, right? The other thing is that if you do not have a plan and you're not working it consistently, the market could impact your business, right? And it shouldn't. Does the now huge shifts? Absolutely, they're going to affect big, large companies' businesses, right? But all in all, if you're running a successful business, those market shifts shouldn't affect it all that much, right? It should be a place of pivot, not a place of restructure. Okay. Obviously, over here without a plan, right? How many of you feel reactive? Yeah, right. You have to work with people you don't want to work with, maybe, right? You tend to deal with people. You chase leads longer than you should have. You know it's not going to work out and you're still stinking talking to them, right? Oftentimes it's because you don't have a plan. When your plan is telling you just do this, this, and this, and you keep doing it, you don't get as caught on those daily things that get thrown at you. And then, of course, you feel stressed and behind, right? So I want you guys to be thinking of, right? Some of the things like what lead sources do you need to scale, be better at, or get rid of? How do you protect your margins? That's a huge question that CEOs ask. And how often are you asking that in your own business? How can you protect your profit margins? Do you even know how much profit you have from your business? A CEO absolutely knows how much profit, right? And what systems do I need to scale for next year? Okay, so be thinking of all of those things. Let's talk just a minute about this salesperson versus CEO, right? Because this is a big thing. And I will say one of the biggest ahas in most top producers' business is the day that they finally woke up and said, oh, wow, yeah, this is a business. And it is time to start running it like one, right? Here's a question I like to ask people about their business as a CEO. If you were hired as the CEO of your company, how much are you worth? For the CEO tasks that are required by your business, be honest with yourself. If you had to give yourself a paycheck for how you are the CEO of your own company, how much are you worth? And a lot of you are getting paid a CEO salary, right? And yet still in that salesperson mode somewhat, right? So think about that. I want you to go into this year's plan really thinking about how a CEO is going to run this business. Okay. What numbers you need to know. Are you time blocking correctly? Are you having the people do the important things or the easier things so that you can do the dollar producing things? Okay. And really have a plan that's going to have you lead with intention. Okay. So hopefully you have an idea of how you're attacking this. Okay. Here's some of the things you have to be thinking about when you create your plan. And we often miss, especially in real estate and as entrepreneurs, right? Is we have to have all the hats. Until you hire it out, Heidi's shaking her head, you are all these people, right? And the thing that becomes really hard is you have to have the habits built to support every role you're trying to do to keep your business afloat, right? So think about these. When I'm going to show you my recommended 10 hours of time blocking a week, in that time is an hour every week before you can wrap your week up and go off for your weekend as a CEO meeting with yourself. You've got to look at the numbers. You've got to look at the business. Where are you? Where did you succeed this day, week, month? And how do you either fill gaps or do better? Right? You have to be reviewing your numbers like a CFO, right? Lots of us can be really good at that CEO piece, right? We are running the business, we're doing the sales, we're doing that kind of stuff, but we miss the CFO piece, right? The person that's watching the bottom line, the person that's visiting the profit and loss statement every single month and knowing exactly where your money's going, what's making you the most money, what's not. Do you delegate like a chief operating officer? Because you are, right? I know many of you have transaction managers that you're delegating things to. Think about how you're delegating them. Are you delegating to them like the owner of a company? Or are you delegating to them like an assistant, right? And then you have to be selling like the chief marketing officer. You need a set it and forget it plan that is ready to roll and running for you, right? You need to be able to track the results of what you're putting out and know that it's working or know that it's not. You need to constantly know where you're driving leads and where your gaps are to find leads. Okay? Any questions on that? And it's hard. It's why it's hard to do everything in this business and why you have to be so diligent with your time, right? A CEO never wakes up wondering what they're going to do today, who they're going to talk with, who they're going to meet, what appointments they have, right? It is fairly planned every day, a few days before. They're well prepared, they're well schooled, they're well educated. Okay. And of course, you have to be the salesperson, right? So the three typical levels I see realtors make throughout their journey in real estate is they start as a salesperson and there's no other way you can, right? You have to learn what it is to sell. You've got what's a purchase agreement? What's a listing agreement? What are the sign ordinances? What are you even talking about, right? So you have to just learn the sales aspect of it. You've got to learn how to manage clients and stuff, right? Then you go to the super salesperson where you're selling a lot more, but you still might be doing too many non-dollar producing things. The sales is still leading you, right? You're reactive in the business. You're not necessarily proactive in the business. And we want to get you past that super salesperson and into the CEO role. Okay. Okay. Let's jump to the 7 core elements of a business plan. Okay. By the end of this, you're going to have every single tool you need to put all of your plan together and hold yourself accountable for it. Okay. So we're going to talk about what each of these pieces are, and I'm going to show you in the business plan where they are. Okay. I also will have at the end where you can, of course, go and download the 2026 business plan that is ready for you guys to start filling out whenever you're ready. Okay. By next week, there also will be a recorded video that you can watch along with it that talks about each section of it, each sheet, how you use it, why you'd use it, and that kind of stuff in much more detail. Okay, today we're going to stay a little bit more high level with your plan and how you can find these things and be ready to go implement your plan at a high level and use it. Okay, so here's all the pieces. Okay, this is the high level of each of them. When you are thinking like a CEO, you have a really good grasp on all of this stuff. Your CEO meetings should look like this. This is your agenda for your CEO meetings right here, right? What was my income goal and my transaction goal? Did I meet it? What do I need to do differently? What kind of leads came in this week and why did they come in? What kind of patterns am I seeing in my business right now? Sellers, buyers, what's making them move? How can I double down on that? Right? What's my opportunity in my database? What's my marketing plan? How's it going? What do I need to add to it? What's working? What's getting really good response? What's not getting as good of response? Making sure you have a really good time blocked daily and weekly action plan every single week. What systems and leverage are you using? Where's your financial planning? And how are you on your accountability and your tracking? Okay, so this is a great slide for you to have put them here and there, right? Here's where I'm doing okay. Here's where I probably need to look at making some improvement in this upcoming year. We're going to dig into each one of these individually, okay? So the ones that you're doing good on. Here's the question I want you to ask about those. Doing well on, I think I should have said. I want you to ask yourself, how in the next year can I double down on those? If it's working, right? If you're doing a great job at it, if it's producing business income for you, how can you now double down or be better at that next year? Okay. And if it's in the needs to be better column, what are the steps I need to take as we go through the next slides to create an action plan around being better at those no later than December 31st, right? We want to start January 1 next year with business pendings, right? A marketing plan that is ready to go and running itself. Okay. And a plan that you can absolutely follow and hold yourself accountable to. And it needs to have all of these pieces. Okay. Let's start with income and transaction goal. So those of you who have seen the business plan, of course, it's on the top left of the summary page, right? What you're going to need to have with you is your current production year to date. That's how many millions you've done year to date. This is just to get an average. Whatever you have is fine. Okay. So throw your production in there and how many closings you've had year to date. And this is going to give you your sales price per closing. Okay. This is your average sales price. So this is the very first number you need to know in your business to have an idea of where it is. Okay. I just did seller pricing on Tuesday morning. And it is the similar situation here, right? You want to see your average sales price and how does your average sales price stack up against the market and your market? How are you doing, right? Is there a gap and you could be doing better Or are you already exceeding what the market's doing and cha-ching, right? Also, is there an opportunity for me to take this average sales price one direction or another? Okay, that's why you have to know that number. Where's my opportunity with my average sales price? And if I wanted to change it, what would be the things I need to implement in the next 3 months to see a direct change in my average sales price next year? Okay. So you're going to fill out your business plan. You're going to find that number. And then I want you to spend some time with that number, evaluating it, seeing the gaps in it. Okay. Your lead source mix. Okay. This is a good one. How many of you know your percentage of sphere to non-sphere business? Okay. It's a number you should know, right? What percentage of your business is sphere versus non-sphere? The average top producer is 85-15. 85% of their closings come directly as a result of their sphere. What does that mean? That means people in their sphere raised their hand and said, hey, we need to buy and sell. It also means they referred you. Okay. So do not forget that everything in your sphere is double, because they can make the move and then they can refer you to all the people they know that will make the move also. Okay. So when you think your sphere, do not forget it's all your past clients and it's all the people they refer you to. Okay. This is a great portion of the business plan for you to spend time really looking at where your business came from. This is a great evaluation of what's working for you already, right? If the majority of your business is coming from the top, great. Is your sphere big enough to keep doing that and just focus on that for next year? Boom. We're going to talk about that and knowing that number too and that gap. Okay. If so, how do you double down? If it's not doing what it's supposed to, right? How can you maybe build a system or a plan around it so that you can see these leads come to fruition next year? Okay. So of your closings this year, when you go to your business plan, you are going to go in and you're going to put how many of your closings were from past clients, past client referrals. Okay. And have all of those in there. Then you need to take the time to ask the questions about that. Don't just have the numbers, right? You want to learn from the numbers. We're thinking like a CEO, right? What story are the numbers telling you? If you've done this with me before, you've heard me say anywhere you've got a 0 is an O for opportunity, right? If you have no leads coming from that source, do you want leads there? It's an opportunity. It doesn't mean you have to, right? It's an opportunity to have a conversation about your business, to do the talking about it, and to be very strategic about where you want to go next year with where your business is coming from. Okay. This section is also on your summary page. Okay. If you guys have questions or anything, make sure you just stop me as we go. Throw your hands up, holler, digital hands. Okay. This is the simple math to calculate the most important numbers you need to know about your database and your marketing. Okay, so here we go. How many of you know how many people are in your sphere? If you don't call it a sphere, it's going to be your mailing list. Okay, everybody know that number? Put it in a calculator. If you don't have a calculator, you can do it like they teach now. 100 times 7 is 7. That means 200 times 7 would be 14. 300 in your sphere is 21. Okay. So that number right there is the number of closings that will transpire in that group of people, just that group of people, not people that are anywhere else in your world, just that group of people in the next 12 months. How many of you, by a show of hands, are getting that many closings from your sphere every year, year after year after year? Okay, there's a gap. How, in the next 3 months, do you set yourself up to fill that gap next year? If you are not getting the amount of closings that are sitting in your sphere, how do you fill it? I'll probably answer the question for you before we get off. The other 7%, okay? So now take that number. If it's 300 people in your sphere, you have 21 closings, and double it. What that means is there is another 7% in your sphere that will provide you a referral if you ask for it and do it the right way. How many of you are getting that many referrals from the people in your list of 100, 200, 300? Okay, there's a gap if you're not. If you are, yay. Now you got to get more people, right? And so you've got to know how many more you need to add to get the results. If you're not getting it, what are you going to change next year to make sure you do? Okay. And the most important piece of that is obviously your marketing plan. Okay. So those of you who have learned from me, coach with me, we take our database, our number in the sphere, and we break them down and we give them letter grades like a teacher would. We grade them on the value they provide for us to make money off of. Okay. That we call our A's and B's. Our A's and B's are our most important people. So these are all your past clients. They've already done business with you, right? They've already proven they love you and would do business with you. These are also your friends and family that maybe haven't done business with you, but you hope would if they had the opportunity. Okay. So these are people that know, love, and trust you already, and that would likely use you. You are their go-to realtor. Okay. So here are the amount of touches that they should be getting in a year. Okay. 24 mailers. That's 2 a month. 24 emails. Also 2 a month. The intention of that is to be in their world once a week, in their mailbox every other week, and in their email inbox every other week. Okay, so there's a strategic way you place those. The way to get all of the closings and all of the referrals out of the sphere that you should be is by doing all of these touches at a high level. Okay, so that's your first thing. If you're not doing them, how can you either start, baby step it, do some this next year? And if you're doing some, but you're still not getting the results, where are you missing things on here? Or where do you need to change your messaging to make it better next year? Now, don't fear. November's webinar is we're going to build this together. Okay. So all you need to work on now is just knowing what you need. Pay attention to what you have, right? Look at what's worked this year already. What mailers worked? Did my people like? Did I send any? Should I send more, right? What emails worked? What didn't? If I've never done them, do I want to, right? Where might I go to get some of that stuff? This is your planning time to be ready for January when it comes to this part of the system. Okay. You have to call them once a quarter. You guys hear me say this, right? Though I said this week, I had a coaching client come to the call this week and literally say to me, this doesn't feel fair. And I said, it does not feel fair. You got to tell me about this. She said, it does not feel fair that my job is literally to just talk to people and laugh and have a great time. I'm like, I know, isn't that awesome? It doesn't feel fair that that's what we should get paid for. And yet it's exactly what people pay us for, right? You've got to reach out to them and just be there for them. You do not ever have to talk about real estate. That's one of the things that typically keeps people from reaching out to their sphere, is because they don't want to be a realtor, right? Your goal is to just know where they're at in their life of real estate, whether it be investments, whether it be their current house they live in, whether it be their rental going to a house, and how you can be there no matter where they are in that process. Okay. And every one of these steps will make that happen and make business fall on your lap. Okay. The final piece is, of course, you have to be on social media. You got to friend them, right? If they're not seeing your stuff, right, you're not doing any good out there. So make sure every single person on your A's and B's you have followed and are following you everywhere you want and need that to happen. That's an excellent task to be working on right now before January 1. Okay. On your phone calls, if you haven't talked to them, this is the best time to do it. Start now, right? You have 3 months to get through your entire sphere before you start next year, and it will catapult your business if you only do that one action this next few months. Okay. The other part of your sphere is, of course, your C's through F's. Your people who are maybe less valuable to you, right? You don't really know if they'd use you. Or they've used another realtor, but I really liked them, and maybe, right, they didn't have a great experience with their new realtor and might come back to me. These people we still want to invest in, but we just want to invest in half as much. Okay. So there's another gap. If you aren't getting the closings out of your sphere, it could be because you don't have enough A's and B's, or you have too many C's through F's, and you need to spend time figuring out how you can move those up for you. Great way to strategically look at your database and your list of people, right? And how you're going to attack them next year for the results you need to implement your plan. Okay. One of the numbers we've got to do right now is, all of you, how do you think? Okay, here's what I want you all to know the number of, if you do not already. How many of you know how many closings you need next year to hit your income goal? Good. Okay, so you guys are pretty much there. If you don't, we're going to figure that out on your business plan. Okay. You also had your average sales price. So if you think in terms of production, take the production you think you want and divide it by your average sales price that we just figured out a few slides ago. Okay. Here's the rule of thumb for your lead generation. The number of closings you want to have in a year, the number of closings you want to have in the year is the exact same number of contacts you need to make every week. Simple, right? That is so simple to count. You want 50 closings. You got to talk to 50 people every week, right? You want 25 closings. You got to talk to 25 people every week. Okay. And
Julie,
the only, yes.
quick question. So when you mentioned I
Yes.
need to talk to 50 people a week, if I speak to somebody multiple times during the week, is that that doesn't count? It has to be another person?
Yep.
Okay.
New people. And the
Okay.
reason is, Heidi, right? Because we're counting this on where are we generating leads from. So
Okay.
now you got to be honest with yourself, right? If that person, if you asked a Monday and that you got a lead from them, or let's say this, okay, let me give you another example of where it might count twice and you guys see if you agree with me. Okay, you talk to Susie Q on Monday and she's like, oh, I have a Bible study. And you're like, oh my gosh, I would love when you're in your Bible study to just listen for people maybe thinking of a realtor and introduce them to me.
Mhm.
Great. Yes, I'd be happy to do that. I'll always do that. Then on Wednesday, you guys are having coffee and she's like, oh, I just joined the gym. And you're like,
Mhm.
hey, when you're at the gym, remember me, right? Now you've had 2 conversations of opportunities to get business from
Mhm.
Susie Q.
Okay.
Does that make sense? That's the
Yep.
only way it would count.
Okay.
Okay. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay. So now with your sphere, because we're calling them 4 times a year, you only have to talk to them once. The other 3 times, you're going to leave them a voicemail. You're going to leave them a text message. Okay. And that counts as long as it's your sphere and you've talked to them in the last year. Okay. People sometimes have questions about that one, Marcy, and I see you kind of thinking. Does that make sense? So if you've talked to them in the year, just reaching out counts. If you've never talked to them before, they're someone new, just dialing them doesn't count until they reach back out to you and you actually have a conversation.
Mhm.
Okay. That's how we count those. So the number of closings you need, the number of conversations you have to have every single week in real estate. Okay. And this time blocking schedule is how. Okay. Now, this time blocking schedule is set up to do 100 contacts a week. So if your number is any less than 100, this is more than enough time you need to time block to accomplish these goals. Okay. And here's the schedule. This is a 10-hour a week time blocking calendar. Why is it 10 hours a week? Because when people fail at time blocking, it is typically because we are in a business that is a tornado constantly. There is a lot of reactivity that we can't get around in our business, right? Do we agree? So we can control a lot of it, but there's a lot of it we cannot and should not even try. You're only setting yourself up for failure if you're going to try to time block 5 days a week in real estate, 8 to 5, 5 days a week. It just won't happen. Okay. Because you got to go on appointments still. You got to do your research. You've got to do all the homework that comes with having business. Okay. So it allows the rest of your week to blow up. Okay. So it doesn't give you any excuse to say, well, this happened and that happened. That's great. As long as that took less than 30 hours of your week, you should have still hit your time block. Okay. So make sure you're gut checking that. You're the CEO now, right? Is the CEO showing up high level for their time block? Right? Because I guarantee you, every top producer and CEO you've ever met is in that office and doing the most important things first and getting it done right away. That is what this is set up for. So here's your 10 hours you need every week. The first one is 6 hours, 3 hours of lead generation, finding new leads, reaching out to your sphere, creating conversations on social media, if that's where you create conversations, and 3 hours a week of lead follow up. And guys, the lead follow up is so important because here's what happens. If you start your lead generation habit, it's going to create a bunch of follow up. And the first thing we do is miss that piece and miss the opportunity for more business. How many of us have lost business because we didn't have great follow up? So much, right? And you can't have great follow up unless it is scheduled in your calendar every single week. Here's the other reason you can't have great follow up because it is a specific action in your business, right? It takes a specific mindset, it takes a specific time to do it. And you will get so much better at both lead generation and lead follow up when you separate those actions and put them in their own blocks. Okay, so if you are not doing lead generation Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday from 9 to 10. Start right now. Next week, block it off. Get there. Okay. Immediately after lead generation for 3 days a week, you need to do an hour of lead follow-up. Okay, in 1 hour of lead generation, think about this. When you're calling your sphere, right, you're going to be leaving 90% voicemails and text messages, right? Yes. So you should be able to get through quite a few in 1 hour. Okay. These numbers are to get through 30 in 1 hour. 30 in 1 hour. That likely means you'll talk to 4 to 6 people a day. Okay. Is that making sense? So you'll actually talk to 4 to 6 people a day. However, you're going to talk to more people during your lead follow-up time, and you're going to have a lot of people responding to you, calling you back, texting you back, right? And all of that counts as you continue to gather your week from your lead generation time. That is how you build to that many conversations in a week. Right? And how many conversations do you need every week? The number of closings you want to have. Okay. There is a crucial 2 hours on Monday afternoon. And that is your market research time and your client updates. Okay. It is so important to update your paying clients on everything that is happening, right? You are their broker. Remember that, right? Think like their stockbroker. Can you even imagine if their stockbroker never checked in, never gave an update of what's happening with their money, never, right? You're that person now. Every Monday afternoon, I recommend you spend time studying the market, finding out what new houses came on the market this week. How many houses pended? Was it more than last week, less than last week? Right? Are they pending for more or less? You've got to do your research. And then guess what? Once you know all of that, you've got to spit it back out to your buyers and sellers, your potential ones, right? And your current ones. So we're going to talk about systems and leverage here in another slide. These are some systems and leverage that if you do not have them up and running at a high level right now, this is the time to build them and get them going by January 1. Great gap to identify in your time blocking here. 8:30 to 9, 4 days a week. Okay, Mondays are really the only day that you really do practice and role play and not go directly into lead generation. The reason why is because this is what worked for me, and Mondays were like a tornado. I needed to get into the office. I needed to script and role play from 8:30 to 9 to get my mindset straight, to get into that working mode. And then I knew there were a bunch of weekend fires sitting on my desk that I had to put out. Okay, so if your business is like mine, you need Monday to get everything organized and together, right? You straighten it all up, and then you go into the afternoon ready to do your market research, ready to update every single one of your current clients. That way you don't have to do any of that in that morning, right? And then the other crucial time that so many people miss is that CEO time. Mine was on Thursday afternoon because I like to not work Fridays. So I had it with my kids to clean the house, to run errands, to do all that kind of stuff that I needed. So that's how I knew if I had to work Friday morning or not. It's still how I know if I have to work Friday morning or not. I do my final thing on Thursday, and then I say, if you have to work, did I hit my goals, right? Did I track? So when I do all my tracking for the week, what did I do? What did I accomplish? What do I need ready for next week? This is when you review your profit and loss statements. This is when you see what your return on investments and stuff is. All of that takes place in that CEO time. Okay. All right. This I love because this is a really good check sheet for you to see where you might have gaps in your systems or your leverage. Okay. Anything that's black is a tool I provide. Okay. So if you do not have this in your arsenal of tools from me, check my resources page. If it's not on my resources page, just send me a text message or an email and say, hey, what is this? And I need it. Okay. But these are great for you to see how are you doing in these areas? Where do you need to look at your plan for next year and get things ready to start your next year? Okay, your lead generation. Do you know how many contacts you have to make every single week? Are you time blocking for the time to do that? Are you using any kind of CRM or a spreadsheet to keep track of that stuff? Right? And are you hitting that number every single week, week after week after week? If not, now is the time to straighten that out before January 1. Figure that out with yourself right now. How do you make that happen? Do you know, like the back of your hand, the number of closings that are in your sphere and the number of referrals that are in your sphere? You just figured that out. If you do not know that like the back of your hand, it needs to be everywhere in your world till you have memorized it. And at every place, you know exactly where you are with those closings. That's the number one gap that's the easiest to fill in your business. Okay. If you don't know that number, if you need it more specifically, when you fill out your business plan, it's going to show you in that section. It's also going to show you once you complete your goals, is your database big enough to support your goals for next year? Or do you have to go meet more people to add to it? Heidi's shaking her head. Do you have to go meet more people to add to it? And if so, how many? That's what your plan's going to tell you. Your job between now and the new year is to go meet that many people. That means you need to get to networking events. It may mean you need to door knock around open houses. It may mean you need to host an event to meet more people, right? But that's where you can get strategic about it. You can literally see on your plan, this is how many people I need to know before December 31st that I need to meet. Your marketing plan, right? We're going to build that in November. Your pen to close. Okay. Your gap in touches. Yep. Let's hit on that, right? Hopefully you're taking note of that. How many touches are you doing? Is there a gap in the amount of touches you're doing? Or is there a gap in the amount of people you're doing touches for every year? Right? If you're not hitting your goals, you need to know why there's a gap and which one it is. Some of the resources that I share in these systems, if you have them already, great, cross it out, check. If you don't, ask me, I'll give it to you. On your pen to close, one of the things is the transaction detail sheet. That's the one-page summary of every real estate transaction that just goes in the front of your file, right? Most still top producers have the .loop digital and a physical file they like to have with them on their desk in their bag to take home at night. See people shaking their head. Okay, you still need it. All right, so that transaction detail sheet goes in the front, or keep a stack of all your detail sheets so you know where every transaction is at every time. Okay, there's also checklists for buyers and sellers from the second you meet them all the way through post-closing when they go back in your database to keep working on. If you don't have those from me, ask me. Okay. Listing system. Do you have a marketing guide that goes out before you meet sellers? If not, that's a system you need to have. Do you have your listing presentation? Do you have a nice presentation you're going to hand to your seller when you go out to get their business? Do you do the exact same thing every time you go to present a listing presentation? And are you doing weekly updates for every seller every Monday afternoon? Same with your buyers. Do you have your buyer presentation ready to go? Is it printed? Is it in a file cabinet that you can just grab it if it's manual? Is it saved on your computer easily so that with your templates that you can send out very easily to any new buyer you need to talk to or send to, right? Think of systematizing your world, And then finally, the CFO, of course, has got to know their income, their expenses, and what they need and have in their reserves. There are entire sections on the business plan that will help you with all of this. Okay, the sheet titled expenses. The point of that sheet is for you to create your budget for 2026. Okay, that's where every month you can go back and say, what did I plan to spend that month? And what did I actually spend that month? That's how you use the budget. Okay, it's not your actual accounting check sheet. It is just laying out your budget for next year. The other thing you want to do on that budget is if you wish you could invest in XYZ and would like to be able to pay for it by July, add those expenses in. Okay, because as you're planning for next year, you want to make sure you have enough closings that you can afford to do what you want to invest in your business, right? Because you know your expenses, you know when you've got extra income, and you know when you can reinvest back into your business. The other thing realtors are so bad about is reserve accounts. Okay. The goal is to have at least 3, ideally 6 months of business reserves in an account, as well as 6 months of personal reserves in an account. Okay. What that means is that you can go an entire 6 months without a closing and not change a thing about the way you handle your life or run your business. And 6 months should be more than enough time for you to get your feet back underneath you, whether it's with a new job, right? Or whether it's getting your real estate business back up underneath you. Okay. So look at that. You need to know if you have reserves. If you don't, how are you going to work to build those this next year? What would you like to see at the end of next year in your reserve accounts? Right. And what kind of closings do you need to do in order to get you there? These are all the things I want you to be thinking about when you open your business plan to put it together for next year. Okay. Here's kind of the steps of financial planning and where I want you guys to think about. There's kind of 3 levels. Here's how I see realtors kind of go through their 3 levels of the CFO piece of their business. Okay. So kind of gauge yourself. Where are you right now? Okay. You start off kind of using a spreadsheet, right? You have a budget for your expenses, maybe, right? This is when you start getting into financial planning, right? And you have a general idea of how much income you have, right? So hopefully all of you are at least there. The second level, you're probably running into a QuickBooks program, right? You're at least being able to look at a profit and loss statement. And hopefully at the second level, you're at least having quarterly meetings with yourself to review the numbers. Okay, at least every quarter, you're sitting down and looking at things. When you're at the highest level and truly a CEO, CFO, someone else is probably doing your bookkeeping for you. They're presenting you monthly with your profit and loss statement, and you're reviewing it monthly, and you're reviewing your budget and your expenses every week at your CEO meeting. Okay, so when someone else is giving you the reports, you're just glancing. Okay, so that's ultimately where you're working to get towards in your business, is where someone else is keeping your books, printing you the reports, and all your job is to do is to review them and learn from them and work better to expand them. Okay, any questions? And that kind of gives you an idea of where you are today and where you might look at wanting to be for next year. Tracking. We got 6 more minutes. I promise I'll finish you guys on time. How many of you are really good at tracking? Good, Heidi. Tracking is important. Okay. Let's think about our CEOs. How many CEOs would have 0 idea what anybody else is doing in their business? They'd have no idea what their money's doing, no idea, right? You guys are the CEOs of a very profitable business, hopefully. And you have got to track your actions, your money, and everything. Okay. Part of the business plan, along with the tracking your budget and then hopefully watching your expenses every month and comparing it to it, is your weekly tracking. Okay. Your weekly tracking sheet in the business plan is set up that all you have to do is count all of these things once a week. Okay. So, and you don't have to count any of them, at least count one. If you've never tracked anything, track one. If you track at a high level, you're tracking all of these. If you've mastered tracking, you know at all times in your business where all of these are and how you make the most strides. Okay. But start tracking this stuff. Now is the time to get your 2025 business plan tracking filled out for the rest of the year. That's how you build the habit to start next year. Start tracking everything you're doing today and putting it on your sheet for 2025. Okay. Don't just put the numbers in. Every week at your CEO meeting, you need to also review them. You need to watch the trends. You need to pay attention when you've got lots of closings happening. What were you doing 90 days before that might have created that flood of closings? It is so important to track where you at all times, where you're at all times, and how you might do better next week, next month, next quarter, and next year, right? If you have no idea what you did in a week, how can you have any idea what you did last quarter and what that resulted in, right? This is why tracking is so important. And a lot of people look at that and be like, oh, it's so much. But guys, think about it. From here down, you guys know this already. How many appointments did you set? How many listing contracts did you take in the last 7 months? Buyer appointments, contracts signed, how many pendings and how many closings? Those should be off the top of your head, no question. You may have to look at how many new A's and B's did I create, right? Or Heidi, in your section, how many more people did I meet this week that I have to add to get to my number? You're going to track that here. And then how many contacts are you making? Right? Was it a text? Was it a DM? And then the one least people track is the hours it's taking to generate the new leads. But that's how you can ultimately find out what your bare minimum has to be every single week, because you can see how many contacts are you averaging every week by tracking them. Okay. So I'm going to jump super quick. Accountability. If you do not have one of these things to keep you accountable, you need it. Okay. Accountability is the biggest piece. It is one thing to have a plan, but the accountability is what takes that plan from just being a piece of paper on your desk or a file folder on your desktop to hitting the goals you want and living the life you want. So you must create accountability around yourself. Our brains are built for survival. Right? They are not built for discipline. They're built to survive. Okay. So you have to remember that anything hard takes energy. And our brain is automatically going to default to easy to save you. Okay. So create accountability, because that's going to help your brain get over that fear of this could kill me. Picking up that phone could kill me. Right? Create some accountability around yourself to help your brain get over that and understand it's not going to kill you. I'm going to leave you on this one. Hopefully you have been creating your to-do list of everything you need to do. These are actual statistics of people that have a coach. Okay. Some of them are from my clients. I do not care if it's me. You've got to have the right coach for you. However, there is not a CEO or a top producer out there that does not have a coach if they're getting these kind of results. Okay. On a national level, 40% you can increase your revenue with high accountability. 63% increased efficiency. What that means is that they're getting 63% more results in the same amount of time that you're working. Do you believe that? Okay. It is the highest return on your investment you can get in your business at 9%. You should be doing your numbers right now, right? You need to be holding your money accountable right now to know where you're going to spend it next year. And you need to be knowing your return on investment for everything you've done. Okay. And they're doing it in less time. Okay. Here is the QR code that will take you to my resource page that has everything that was in this on there for you. Also, scroll down as the 2026 business plan ready for you to download. Once you have it, I'd love for you to share it with me. I'd love to see your plans. It should absolutely, once you fill out the summary page, tell you exactly what you need to start doing right now on a measurable, on a number standpoint to succeed next year. Okay. So your job is to start doing it. Start making the contacts. That's the number one thing you have to start doing right now. Make the contacts to get you to the number of closings you want next week. The second thing is use the plan to identify the gaps. Where are the gaps in your business? And how will you fill them by January 1 so that those gaps do not exist next year? And then the final thing is what's working, what's already working so well for you, what's already producing business, and how do you double down on that? And if any of you have any questions about that, let me know. I will later in the month be doing a fill in the blanks business planning workshop. If you guys want to do that, if you have not completed yours by then, hopefully you will. And then in November, we'll be building out your marketing plan. All right, you guys are awesome. Thanks for spending the hour with me. Hopefully this helps you think like a CEO when you go to sit down and make your plans for next year and absolutely kill it. If you need me, I'm here to help you do it. All right, bye everybody.
Julie, thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for being here. Uh-oh.